we have been talking about this, that we want to be a church that passes on its faith to the next generation. And that next generation passes it on to the next. And it just never ends, that there's always new Christians coming in. So why not talk about the older and the younger and what we can learn from each other? How we can take advantage of the church family and makeup that we have. How we can always have a healthy and vibrant church that's always passing on to the next generation. Your children, your grandchildren, people we've never even met yet. Now, the Bible has a lot to say about the interaction with older and younger. And they encourage that and the Bible encourages that interaction. But sometimes we get blind spots in the seasons in life that we're in. You know, when you're young, you think the only good things are the young things, the things that young people are doing. And when you get into that older one, you seem to think that the only good things are the older things, and they don't know what they're doing. And those are blind spots we have. A multi-generational church allows for discipleship. The younger can look to the older, and they can lead the way. They can go by example. They can model and pass along what they've went through. While the younger groups in a multi-generational church bring vitality, energy, and a sense of hope for the future for a church. Now, if we recognize this, we can learn and continue to be strong. But if we don't, we slip into that mentality of us versus them. And that is a waste. The large church that we got this idea from did something very interesting. And we're talking about a church that's thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the weekend. They surveyed hundreds of people out of their congregation in these age groups. And then they compiled that information and then were able to come back with some things that they would, like the older would like to share with the younger, and the younger would like to share with the older. I've already stole the idea for the sermon series. We're going to steal their research too. So I'm going to use what they were able to compile with their congregation, because they're people just like us, and share some of those things. The Bible doesn't see it as a us versus them. It sees us as a we working together. Titus 2:6-8 says this: "Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. In everything set them an example by doing what is good. In teaching show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us." Nowhere does it say criticize the other generations. Nowhere does it say just always tell them your way is wrong and my way was always right. It says encourage them and challenge them to go to new heights. And that's what we want to do, and that's the way we want to approach this. This is encouragement and challenge. So first, from this week, what the older would like to say to the younger generations, number one is this: value people over technology. There's always been temptations, no matter what season of life, where you live in the world, what time in history you live, there's always been temptations. But one of the temptations that we face today is how to handle the technology that's at our fingertips. There's been a technology explosion. It affects every one of us. And if you don't think it does, think about the use of your phone in your home. Used to be it was a phone in the community. Then there was a phone that everybody shared a line with several other houses. And then there were even phones that were stuck to a wall that you had to stand next to talk. And you had to turn the thing to get the dial. And then we had to be able to walk around in the house when we became cordless. And now everybody just has a cell phone. And we can talk everywhere. And we can even talk on the internet. The medical industry is driven by technology. The cars that we drive, driven by technology. So we do not need to fool ourselves that we're not part of the technology world. But it is moving so rapidly that it is hard to keep up. It has its pitfalls. A businessman in cold Wisconsin went to a convention in sunny South Florida. And on his arrival, he sent an email back to his wife and to tell her that he had arrived there safely. Only mistake he made at the hotel was he typed in one character in the email address wrong. So the email actually went to the wife of a preacher who the preacher had just passed away that week. As a matter of fact, the funeral was the day she got the email. So at the end of the day, she came back after all the activities of her husband's funeral, and that night she opened up the computer and read the email and just fainted. What the email said was this: "Arrive safely, but it sure is hot down here." Next line was, "Looking forward to your arrival on Friday." Technology is and will always continue to be a challenge for us to handle properly. And even though one of the things that the older asked the younger, one of the things is help us with technology. One of the things that the younger said to the older was, help us understand we don't need technology all the time. How do we get along without it? But it is not going away. It is a part of our world. You see, technology is amoral. And what that means is it's not immoral, it's not good, it's not bad. It's like money in your pocket. It's like the instruments that they play up here. It's like anything else. It's like the internet. It's whose hands that it's in. It's what we do with it determines whether it's good or bad. For instance, the internet and streaming video has spread the gospel to all parts of the world and reached millions that would have never been able to be reached with the preaching. But that same technology has led to a boom in the pornography world and made it so available to people. So it's good and it's bad, depending on who uses it. Matthew 6:19 and 20 says this: "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal." Just by raising your hand and leave it up, how many of you own a cell phone? Okay, you can put your hands down. You can't take it with you. Our computers, our cell phones, and our cell phones are no longer just phones. They're computers themselves. They're everything. We can't take it with us. It's temporary. So when we're encouraged and challenged to say, value people over technology, we're to be reminded that the only thing we're going to take to heaven with us is the people that we were able to invest our lives in, to share the gospel, where they accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Never forget that. Everything else is temporary. Value people over technology. The second thing that they wanted to share was develop a heart of service over entitlement. I think every generation that's ever been thinks that the next generation thinks they want it handed to them, and they had to work harder than any other generation before them. That's natural. But a real concern, but one of the top challenges from the older to the younger is that don't have your hand out expecting. Have your hands out ready to serve. Develop a work ethic. Be thankful. Be grateful. The younger need to look around the church and see the number of older generations who are serving and have been serving for many years. And then accept the challenge to rise to new heights and serve yourself. The church needs the younger to step up, to serve, and do it now. Any older generations that will look with honest eyes will understand that the young families of today are under a time pressure that families have never been under before. But the younger generations cannot use that as an excuse and leave serving to the older generations. Mark 10:45 says this: "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Eric mentioned Stop Hunger Now at the beginning of the service. It always impresses me, and it did so yesterday, but even more so is what I knew I was going to be preaching today. When I looked around that room as people were working, I mean, we had kids this tall working. And we had people through all the age groups working. Some that were to the years that they couldn't stand there and work, and so they brought a chair and pulled it up and worked. Side by side. Beside people you may not even know or know very well, but you worked for hours. That is priceless for a church. That is priceless for people. Somebody visited here not too long ago, and they're active in a church, and what she told me was, I wanted my son to come out here on Wednesday night. We came out Wednesday night, and she said, this is why. She said, there are no men in our church. He says, and he's at the age, he needs to be around some men that will be role models. And she wants her son to be involved here. She wants her son working side by side with men so he can get that feel of in that role model. That is priceless, that what we can do and draw together in that. Third thing that they wanted to share was respect the past. Respect the past. Proverbs 4:1-4 says this, listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. When I was a boy in my father's house, still tender and an only child of my mother, he taught me and said, lay hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands, and you will live. I always thought it was so counterproductive, and I guess the best word is silly, that working as a youth minister for as long as I did, that who we seek our guidance from and advice from is from people who don't know any more than we do. Teenagers would always seek their guidance from other teenagers who were just as lost on the situation as they were. But what the Bible teaches us to reach out and learn from people who have been there before us. And not only reach out to them, but to respect them. To respect what they've done and what they've sacrificed and what they've given. Open doors for them. Speak to people who are not in your age group. Speak to them out in public. Say thank you, please. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Show respect. Generations will always have differences, and times will always change like the seasons of the year. When I was a teenager, most of my arguments with my dad were revolved around the length of my hair. When I got to college, you could have a mustache, but you could not have a beard. You could wear corduroy pants, but not jeans. And then it seemed that we moved to a time where men wanted to wear earrings, and that was the big thing. Then it was tattoos for men. And then it was tattoos for men and women. It always changes. It's always going to change. I'll never forget this, when Ernie Harrison was working for Barton College, and it was during the time when the style came in for women to wear the half shirts where it shows their midriff. And Ernie went up to a group of girls that were wearing those on campus. He says, you know why they call those half shirts, don't you? And they said, why? And he says, because half of y'all don't need to be wearing them. You know, so, the Bible and modesty should always be our guide to fashion and everything else for that matter. But it would be foolish to never look to the past and learn and to value the things of the past. But it would be equally foolish to so value the past that we never move to the present and embrace the future. There's a saying, a quote, and I've said it before. It says, death comes to a church when our memories of the past supersede our vision for the future. It is the leadership's intention here at Macedonia, your elders, your deacons, your preachers, to value the past, but also embrace the present and prepare for the future. We try hard, and it is a challenge, and it is no easy task. But we believe that by doing so, we can use it as a springboard to a long and vibrant and effective church for our community and for our kingdom. The fourth and final thing that the older wanted to share with the younger was this: become a catalyst for spiritual revival. 1 Timothy 4:12, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation in this verse. It says, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity." This was written to a young preacher named Timothy. The older want and need the younger generations to be serious about their faith. They want and need us to don't play Christianity, not play church, but be serious about our commitment to Christ, to lead your families, lead your communities, lead your church, your friends at school. Be a positive leader for Christ in your schools. History has taught us that for revival to break out in the land, two things are present. One is prayer, and the second is that the young lead the way. The young get involved. Be serious about your walk with God. The older generations can hardly recognize the America that they grew up in. It has changed so much, and to be honest with you, they're worried. They're alarmed. They can't believe what has happened in America. They're extremely concerned. And they want you, the younger generations, to lead the nation in a different direction, to lead them back to a faith in God. Another sentiment that rose to the top on the surveys was they wished they had been bolder in their younger days with their faith, and they don't want you to make the same mistakes. Speak up, stand tall, be proud of Christ. They ask that you do not make the same mistakes. Macedonia is so blessed to be a multi-generational church, and I'm sure there have been times that whatever generation you live in or where you're at, whether you consider yourself in the younger or the older, there have been times that you wished that everybody saw things just the way you did. I wish everybody just wanted to do it this way. Everybody does. But be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. There are churches dying weekly across America because there are no young people, younger generations in the church. And the older are saying, we can't carry on anymore. And they're dying. There are younger congregations, there are younger churches who are struggling financially and struggling because they have not have and do not have the older generations to lead the way in service and in love and in sacrifice. And they're struggling, looking for those leaders because nobody's been there. They're new. Nobody's been there to lead them. Be careful what you wish for. We are blessed beyond measure here to have this kind of church. We have a family tree. We have a spiritual heritage, and we should build upon it. The roots have been laid, and they're strong, and let's build upon that. Appreciate the differences. But do not be caught in wishing things where it's totally different. My friends, the next 10 years are going to be scary years for the Christian, for the church. We are quickly moving into a time that I think is really going to mirror the time in history when the New Testament was written. Quickly going away is the comfort of living in a nation where the government and culture appreciates the good of Jesus Christ. And it's going to cost us something to be Christians. It's going to cost us something to be a church. And we must prepare for those days. For the younger, it's looking to the older to lead us. For the older, it's preparing them for what is to come. Now, I don't know, maybe you're not like this. Maybe you're more spiritual than I am. But when you go out to eat or something, and there's going to be a little child at your table, if you're like me, when we eat with Eric and Kelly or Brian and Kayla or somebody, and their son or daughter's there, we always ask them to say the blessing. Always. When they're going to pray, and there's children, always fold their hands. You know what I do? I fold my hands. I don't do that any other time. But when it's a child praying, I fold my hands. Because that's what they're doing. And here's where I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that does this. When they start praying, I open my eyes. I watch them. Because I want to take it all in. I want to hear them. I want to see them. I want to see the expression on their face of how they're saying that prayer, and they mean it. And I just want to take it all in. Now, figuratively, what I want to say to you is this. Look around you and take it all in. I'm not saying you necessarily need to open your eyes during prayer, but look around you what you got. The opportunity we have here at Macedonia. Value that. Don't take it for granted. Younger nor older. Take it in.